Hello, everybody, and welcome to the first ever commentary for Season 3 of Versus Universe. There, it says it on the screen right now. This is the commentary for Ganondorf versus Xehanort. Recording this so far removed from the episode. Came out, I think, around 2 months ago. Now, it's been out for a while. The reception has been very, I think, positive, which I'm very happy for. I'm very glad that we've managed to create a well-liked episode of the show. And I think that if you enjoy this style of, if you enjoy this format of verses, if you enjoy the show, I think you're going to really enjoy the stuff that I have in store for this season. Because it is a lot more of that story-focused stuff that I kind of talk about at the end, where I'm having kind of interconnected storylines, and there's still a structure to it, there's still a versus aspect to it, and ultimately, it's not going to be like a big multiversal what have you. It's still going to be, hopefully, 9 interconnected segments to a larger story. And most of the multiverse, I say multiverse, most of the crossover stuff is probably going to happen outside of the actual fights. That's why I have like the little like monologues that come out. And by the way, you should watch those monologues because they have information that is not touched upon in the actual episode. And if you're looking to understand the entire story of the season, I think it's very important that you, as a viewer, like seek out the supplementary materials because you're going to need them. But talking more specifically about this episode in particular, part of what inspired me, because I think it's not really a secret to anybody. Zelda reference. Also, I'm a little under the weather and I got a runny nose, so I might need to pause just to like take a drink because I'm having a hard time breathing through my nose, and breathing's a little hard right now. Also, just because I'm asthmatic. So I have a water here, keep me hydrated. So like when I was doing season 2, majority of it was like last year, 2023. I was like thinking like, I don't know if I have enough ideas to do a season 3, and I was thinking about it, and my prevailing thought was, are we going to just end the series with season 2? And I was kind of set on, ending it actually during season 2. But a game came out on May 12th, 2023, and that game was The Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom. And that game made me want to revisit Ganondorf in a versus sense because of all the cool shit he gets in that game. And the general characterization, the new, like the voice acting, the story, the powers, like all of it. I've always been a Ganondorf fan. That's why Ganondorf was one of the first episodes of the series, and I would say Ganondorf versus Rao is like like the episode where Versus Universe really gets its bearings as a series, and like I kind of find my place as a writer. So Ganondorf means a lot to me in terms of like this show, and I figured if I was going to revisit any character, it was probably going to be him. And getting him back was a question of like, I know I want to have Ganondorf here. I think Ganondorf is a cool character, and I think putting him in versus is very cool. I'm a little, like, Ganondorf specifically, I think, is the Zelda character that is most befitted to versus, I think Link is a bit of an odd case just because of the multiple aspects thing. And like specific links are cool, they can be, but it depends on the matchup. Um, but I think Ganondorf is just like a full set. Like, yeah, this is cool. Ganondorf has a lot of cool matchups. But I chose to do none of them. I chose to do a matchup that I think existed before me, but one that I came up with independently. That's happened a couple times before. A lot of versus universe are matchups that I just come up with, and I don't think there's anything wrong with that. It is my show after all, and ultimately, when I make versus universe, I'm making it out of passion for like the ideas that I like. Like I don't think I can make a versus universe about two characters I barely know. And if I do, it's probably going to be like a kind of a shorter episode, and those have happened before, for sure. But I try to at least have a passing familiarity with the characters. But Ganondorf specifically was like, yeah, I want to revisit it, and I have an idea. Well, I was thinking of ideas for him, and I came across Xehanort in my head, and I was like, okay, shelter that, maybe find something else that's not Xehanort, because Xehanort has this, like... Xehanort is one of those characters in Versus that has, like, the matchup for him. And the matchup for him is Palpatine, right? And if I'm being honest, I was kind of swayed by popular opinion with that. If I think about it for more than 2 seconds, and I really don't enjoy it, mainly because it detracts from Xehanort's character, and like there's a lot more to him than just Gra evil. I think there's a lot more to Ganondorf than Gra evil, but ultimately they are Gra evil, but also they are not Gra evil. I think that's interesting. And Xehanort has this like weird kind of thing where like we really didn't know a lot about him at the time. Like Xehanort is really only in 3 Kingdom Hearts games. He's he's in Xehanort proper is in he's in Birth by Sleep, he's in Kingdom Hearts 3, and he's in Dark Road. And I guess Young Xehanort, Dream Drop, but that's kind of a exception because Young Xehanort's kind of his own character, kind of. But it was a thing where I was like, I feel like both of these characters have an underlying depth to them that in the hands of like somebody who just sees the surface, and I'm not claiming to like be like the hidden truth of Ganondorf and Xehanort. No, it's just like I feel like there's a certain like way these characters function that is not very surface level, and it can be interesting to dwell on that as opposed to just having them be lol evil. And I wanted to write a fight where sure they were bad guys, but ultimately a lot of the actions and reactions come down to characterization. And Xehanort in particular is just a character that I talk about this with friends. I don't trust him in the hands of other Versus writers because of the experience I have being a Kingdom Hearts fan from a very young age, and kind of growing up with like this lingering threat. Oh my God, that face! I've been not really talking about the actual episode as it's been happening, but I really wanted to show that face in the edit for Ganondorf's analysis. I just need to talk about the analysis portions a little bit. So, a change from Season 2 into Season 3 is that I decided that the live-action segments did not need to be in every single analysis. And I think part of it was, as I was writing the later episodes of Season 2, I was kind of realizing, like, oh shit, there's really no point to these live action segments. Like, even though they save a little bit on the edit, ultimately I still want to find examples and show people what this stuff looks like. And if I don't, I feel kind of bad because it just means nothing because the fight has no like no cohesive visual, like it is no visual aid aside from the bobbleheads, as I call them. And I want people to know if I say something in the fight what that means by watching the analysis portion. That's why they exist. These are not here just for shits and giggles. It's not here just because it's the format. It's there to serve a purpose. Like with Versus Universe specifically, there is a very, very good reason why the analysis portions exist in this series. Also, so that I can tell little jokes, because I like doing that. And in terms of like the editing, I feel like I've been getting a lot better with editing as time goes by. I've definitely, I definitely feel like this episode is, there's no real flashy edits, but I do feel pretty good about all my editing throughout the entire thing, particularly the audio. And unfortunately, I was trying out something with nested timelines, and the audio got a little gummed up whenever a new section starts. But other than that, I think it sounds really nice, and there's some stuff with the audio cues and the music specifically, especially here. I remember there's an audio cue with the music where the boss theme kind of kicks in right when the boss starts in the footage, and I just like, oh, that scratches the brain real good. So if Ganondorf has taken any damage, it becomes a lot less useful. However, I will say that like video game characters are very difficult to edit analyses for, because a lot of it is contingent on stuff happening in gameplay, and gameplay can be a fickle thing to edit. Gameplay can be very, very fickle. I know I had to none of this footage is my own. I never claim Versus Universe footage as my own. A lot of it, I think I downloaded 3 versions of this final boss fight to get everything that I needed. And that was a hassle and a half, and I couldn't even like fucking be bothered with the Xehanort boss fight in Birth by Sleep. Like thankfully a lot of not Birth by Sleep, in KH3. Thankfully a lot of the Kingdom Hearts stuff is cutscene specific, and I should mention this because it's very important. Kingdom Hearts specifically is a great series to use in scripted format because of a beautiful thing called the Wayfinder Project. And what the Wayfinder Project is, it is a database of every single Kingdom Hearts cutscene, and you can literally like search anything that you remember from the cutscene, and you can find the cutscene. You can search the character that's in the cutscene. You can search the world the cutscene takes place in. You can search a quote from the cutscene. It's essentially Shazam, but just for cutscenes of the series. And it has, I think, every single Kingdom Hearts game, including Dark Road, which made Dark Road very easy to edit for, because I could just find every cutscene with, like, oh god, what's his name? Who's I can find every cutscene with Baldur in it. And even then, I think I just downloaded the full thing of Dark Road cutscenes, because Dark Road is actually a 4-hour cutscene game, weirdly enough. Like, Dark Road's pretty short. It's a wild ride, but it's not a long one. But generally, I think actually Xehanort was a little harder to edit for, because it was a lot less segmented. And I should also mention here that I kind of changed the way that I do pre-production on these episodes now. And before, I kind of went into it with a general knowledge, but I didn't write anything beforehand. And that was a big mistake, and I've been doing it forever, and I was just like, well, I'm just going to keep doing it this way. But with this episode specifically, I like outlined everything in a big Google Doc, and I was like, okay, here's the outline for both analysis segments, so I can write out those however I need to. and here's an outline for the fight, so I know what beats to hit in what order. And like, here are some dialogue ideas for the fight. Here's a bunch of quotes of the characters. Here's like arsenal and abilities for the characters, specifically what they do, like no jokes. And it's just like a big thing of just like the characters, essentially essence. Everything I could fit into a Google Doc about these characters that would be useful for writing a Versus episode, I try to fit in there. And there were a lot of quotes that I wanted to fit in to this episode that unfortunately I did not. In particular, one quote I remember was the Ganondorf death cutscene in Wind Waker with I coveted that one, I suppose. I was thinking about how to fit that in, and it was just like I couldn't find a way to like think about like no, I just couldn't find a way to really like fit that in naturally, and I didn't want to force it in. I don't like forcing in dialogue for any reason. I just really I prefer for dialogue to feel natural. And any reference I make, I want to feel like just the characters saying dialogue that the audience recognize. I don't want to go like a clap in the theater moment. I don't. Like, there's a thing that a comedian said that kind of stuck with me, and I forget which comedian it was. I love that, by the way. I love how that looks. The player dying in the Dark Road cutscene is fucking hilarious. No, there was a comedian who said, like, you know, you say one joke one time and you get laughs. You say the same joke the next time, you get applause. And nobody goes to a comedy show to applaud. And I think there's a certain modicum of like truth to that in Versus. I think people do come here for references. I think people do come to me specifically for references because I am known for like my ability to reference stuff in fights, and that's like one of my things that I like to do when I'm writing is I like to reference. I think it's interesting, and if I can fit it in naturally, I like to do it. But I also don't want it to feel like ooh the thing. I want it to feel like a natural, like, cohesive battle and natural cohesive dialogue that just feels like the characters bouncing off one another. And it can be hard to balance those things, for sure. This is pretty... I know I was talking like, my editing isn't that good, but I think that was... Honestly, I think that was pretty good. I think that I was pretty sick with it, if I'm being real.
Pathways between worlds. Traveling to different worlds was actually part of Master Odin's training for Xehanort and his friends, as they were taught to defend the realm of light.
And it's not the thing where it's like I don't want to reference. I feel like that might be like what people take away from me saying this. I just don't want the reference to be the only thing that's happening. I want there to be some sort of twist to it.
But one cannot exist without the other. Spotting this hypocrisy in his master's teaching.
And by twist, I don't mean like, what if it was bad, or what if it gets no-selled? There's just a certain art to writing versus fights that you need to find the balance between the reference and the action. And I don't mean action in like a movie term, like shooting the action. I mean like the literal action the characters are taking.
I get it. You murdered your friends, but what a fucking moment.
I guess the best way you can put it is like a Goku, right? If a Goku were in a fight, do you think he's going to immediately jump to Super Saiyan Blue or Ultra Instincts and just like bam pow done, right? Do you think that's going to be the case? And I would say no, because it betrays character. It might seem cool to do, it might be a cool action thing, and it might seem cool in your head, but you have to think about the character. And you have to think about the action the characters would take, and have that dictate what goes around
the Keyblade grave.
in the script.
This boy's name was Ventus.
It's just Dragon Ball characters are very easy to illustrate that point with,
Now Xehanort was
because
way older than this fucking job.
they have very straightforward, powers.
And with Ven, he had but one goal: to prepare his body. See, Xehanort, realizing he was very, very old at this point,
And I think I like to do, and I feel like
decided that the only
I got kind of flagged with this with a comment I saw the other day, where I got flagged for saying like, you focus too much on the story. Wow. You focus too much on the story versus the ability of the characters. And yeah. I don't know what to tell you, man. Yes. Like the powers and abilities are still here. They're still present. But ultimately, I want to have a cohesive narrative in this, like, in these little short story fights. And they can still have fighting portions. It's not like they can't do that. And these analysis portions are, half getting people up to speed, half preamble, which I guess are the same thing.
But after another few years, things had settled down enough between the two.
But like a lot of, the story, especially in season 3 going forward, a lot of it's going to be contingent on knowing the characters' plots and knowing the characters' origins as characters. And this show was never been about, I guess the show, from a certain point of view, has been about abilities and, combat and whatever. But ultimately, I feel like the strength of Versus Universe is characterization, and that's what I can offer, and that's my strongest suit as a writer, is characterization. So that's what I offer, and that's why I focus on the story so much in the analysis portions. Like,
with his whole ass, the best course of action would be to kill Ventus. Really revealing your hypocrisy there.
It's
oh, but Balder's just a widow guy.
There it is.
But who should
just a widow guy.
And not really liking it because he is smart. Everybody, Terra is not dumb.
He's not.
But he did fully succumb to
at least 1,000 people now agree that Terra is not dumb, and that makes me happy.
Well, no.
I've been kind of defending myself a lot with my decisions,
but not because of Terra.
And I feel like it's just because there's a certain like level of like what to there is a certain level of acceptance to Versus Universe where you have to accept that it's not going to be your typical versus shenaniganery. And I feel like a lot of people can't get over that hump, and I have to explain myself constantly what the premise of my show is. And the thing is, my show is it does change, even from episode to episode, not even from season to season. I feel like season 3 specifically is a very big change, but there is a tonal change from season 1 to season 2. And I think the tone of the season for every season is very indicated, I should say, by the theme song. And the theme of the theme of season 3 is going to drop when episode 5 drops, same as season 1 and 2. But you can hear it at the beginning and ending of this video here. It's very foreboding. There's no guitar, unlike season 1 and 2. It's mainly orchestral with a drum set.
And after a meeting with Aqua and Radiant Garden, all 3 of the Wayfinders. And
that's kind of the vibe we're going for. We're going for a bit of a darker vibe, and we have darker characters to start ourselves off with. Obviously, they're not like psychopath murderers or anything. Like, I think we're gonna get a little R-rated with some characters later on in the season, I think. I don't know if I'd write anybody in season 6. Season 6? I'm thinking about episode 6 in season 3. I don't know if I'd write anybody in season 3 saying the fuck word, except for myself. But there is going to be like a lot more bad stuff happening. It's going to be essentially it's going to be an entire season of stuff like Virgil versus Hiei and Ganondorf versus Rao, which is why I wanted this not only as a way to get Ganondorf back into VSU as to like have the Tears of the Kingdom stuff, because I find it so interesting and I wanted to explore that. It's not only that, but it's a tone setter for the rest of the season. And the next episode, which is spoilers, Meruem versus Cell, continues on that trend because it's two more villain characters, both of which have a bit of a darkness to them. I think Meruem more so. But also, I guess I should talk about that a little bit. A big thing with this season is that I wanted to kind of... I went back to the drawing board and I like revisited like, okay, what are some series that I really want to delve into again that I didn't really get to explore fully the first time I did it? And the big one was Hunter x Hunter. And I guess I could save this for next episode's commentary, but I don't know when that episode's gonna drop, because it's still in pre-production, because I've been super fucking busy doing a bunch of other stuff. I am working on that slow burn in the background. I have other ideas and other things I would like to do currently than work on Versus Universe, but it is being worked on. It is not, dead or anything. But Hunter x Hunter was a big one because it was literally episode 1. And as much as I enjoy Kurapika vs. Scar, it is a thing where it's like, oh, if I did this nowadays, I would do this so much differently, I would write this differently, I would paste this differently, I would edit this differently, and I would hopefully do this matchup the justice that it deserves. And that's how I feel about a lot of Season 1 episodes. I honestly feel like, the show hit its stride with Ganondorf vs. Rao, but I think the series really found its footing with Virgil vs. Hiei, and I think every episode of Season 2 is a certified banger. 13 people super stoked to be Xehanort's pawns in the keyboard. And they all actually turned me, I'm already half Xehanort. That's nuts. However, I think that's actually hearable in the edit. I think you can hear it very slightly. That's the thing I like to do when I'm editing, is like sometimes there's going to be stuff where it's like it's an audio cue that's like too iconic to leave out. And I'm really upset because the Zuko episode, you were supposed to hear him say "That's rough, buddy," but unfortunately I moved around the timeline a little bit, and I got that clip got moved, and I didn't see it. So when the final edit that's on YouTube right now, suddenly you can just hear in the background, I don't remember where, but you just hear "That's rough, buddy" out of nowhere, and it's just like, ah, shit. I'm mad about that, but that one works. I didn't fuck with it, the edit too much. Only thing I regret is that I should have held on Zigbar too a bit longer there, for sure. Was going around various worlds attempting to undo some of the cruel fates given out by Xehanort, particularly Aqua and Ventus. I do like showing the boat for Aqua. Finally waking the fuck up. Then, it finally came time for the true clash of 7 and 13. The second. And I should mention as well, back on topic of this episode, I looked at the word count, and as a matter of fact, ladies and gentlemen, by word count alone, this is the longest fight in Versus Universe. There were 4 major battles inside the labyrinth that That's right. That's right, guys. It actually fucking superseded Joker versus Giorno. I didn't think anything could, but ultimately I had so many ideas with this that I wanted to do, and so many character ideas and just cool things that I wanted to happen, that it was necessary for it to be that long. And it could have been longer if I kept like the monologues as part of the fight, which I'm glad I didn't, because I think the fight's pacing is very well, like, I think the fight is very well paced, because it just starts right away. It starts right from the get-go.
And along with it, the Chi blade. But the good guys figured out that they could trap him in the memory of a place from his past, and it turns out that place was essentially his home, the land of Skye at Kylam.
That's another thing too, is like secretly, nobody knows this, but like, I guess I can talk about this a little bit too. I was a little torn on like who I was going to play in this episode, because I was like, I do want to play Ganondorf again. I do want to do that again, because I had an idea of like, oh, I think what's going to happen with Ganondorf character-wise is that he's going to have a meltdown, like the end of Tears and Wind Waker, and he's going to become a dragon, because of course he is. So like I wanted to do the little screamies, but also I feel very good about my Xehanort impression, and I was like, well, who the fuck am I gonna voice? And ultimately, I settled on Rox for Xehanort, because I didn't want to get somebody brand new for this role. I wanted to get somebody who had worked with the show before, and Rox and I, we've been kind of getting, we've been talking a lot more recently, and I just felt, like, very good about giving him this role as Xehanort. I vividly remember, like, after I was done writing the fight, I was like, cool, hey, I'm done writing, do you want to, like, do a session, where I direct and you record? And that's how if I have to direct, which I don't always do,
fucking happy in the current world, you dingus. And so he ascended, finally truly dead after
but if I have to, I'll just get him like a DM call in Discord, and we'll just hash it out. I directed Zoro Sanagayama. I didn't direct anybody on Okuyasu Kuwabara, but I directed Rox as Xehanort for this episode. And ultimately, it's... The only thing I regret about it is that the voice kind of mutates over the course of the fight. But I think that's just like a byproduct of how long we recorded. Because truthfully, we were in that call for like an hour and a half getting this shit done. Like, I thought we were going to get it done in like 30 minutes. No. By the end of it, I think Xehanort had fully, like, 49 lines of dialogue he needed, which is, like, 4 times more than the normal episode of Versus Universe. I looked at the amount of lines that, like, Virgil and Hiei had in their fight, and, Virgil has, like, 7 lines, and Hiei has, like, 6. Like, that's how different these fights are from how we started. Unfortunately, you did hear the audio error at the beginning there, and there's nothing I could really do about that. I tried multiple things, and it did not work. Just did not work.
Xehanort then steps out on a balcony, far above where Ganondorf is sitting.
I'm very glad that I figured out the bobblehead thing, because it can... I feel like watching just, like, 2 things, 2 PNGs over a static background for an extended period of time, it can get very boring. And as somebody with ADHD, I wasn't sure how to feel about like the format that I was making, because it was so audio. So I was like, how can I make this more visual without having like literal animation? Because I think the strength of Versus Universe is that it's not animated, and it can get away with stuff that would be a lot harder to animate, like the scene where they're transported through a beam of light to Destiny Islands. That would be extremely hard to animate, I imagine. And with this, I just have to get rid of the background and then replace it with a Destiny Islands background, and that's all I have to do. and the visual shorthand conveys it,
As he says that, a gigantic pillar
like,
springs up from the earth
and the
raises
audience
Ganondorf
understands.
high into the air. He wasn't expecting such an attack in any way, shape, or form, so he gets hit right in the gut and takes a fair amount of damage before getting back up. Regaining his bearings,
And the bobbleheads
he
were
jumps off
this
the pillar,
this
which is
compromise
still
that
rising into the stratosphere.
I figured out how to
Launches
do
his
them
straight down towards Xehanort.
by just like randomly watching Da Vinci tutorials, I think. No, I was like thinking about how to make music visualizers, and I realized like how the visualizer worked was it reacted to the waveform expanding and contracting, and I thought about like the
Foolish old man.
I thought about like some podcasts that I'd seen where, because they didn't have webcams on, they would have just like illustration of the people in the podcast, and they would do this. They would be bobbleheads. They would bounce up and down with the waveform. And I thought about that. I was like, oh, I can use this to like have the shorthand visually for like the character speaking. And that way, not only do you know that like somebody's speaking, you know which character is speaking. I don't think it would be too much of a hassle for the people to guess which character is which. But it is nice that there is like actual visual confirmation about who is playing who.
What a fool you are. You know nothing of the power of
And the narration also exists for that reason, which, by the way, Eve as the narrator, yay!
So these weapons are called keyblades.
I wanted to get Eve as narrator because I thought it'd be funny for 2 season premieres in a row to get her to be the narrator. And, you know, I just said the word season premiere, and that made me think about the term season finale. I guess I gotta talk about it, because this was not supposed to be the next episode of Versus Universe, guys, was it? No, it was supposed to be Phoenix Wright versus Makoto Naegi. And for reasons that I don't know if I can even get into it. I think I just hit the mic and I'm sorry. I've kind of like fallen out of love with Danganronpa as a franchise right now.
what is this?
And I think it's just due to like some other people that I know, and this is no offense to them. They're just very loud with their love for the franchise, and they love it in a very, very different way than I like it. And that made me like very hesitant to do anything with that franchise. And I feel confident about my ability to write Ace Attorney stuff, for sure. I talked about this a little bit too before, and I'll try to keep it brief. But like, big thing was that I was feeling trepidation over my characterization of the Danganronpa characters I was writing, and money. Writing and editing. I'll go, not writing, voice acting and editing. So, voice acting thing, it was going to cost too much money. Because of the amount of writing I was doing for the project. And keep in mind, I wrote down, the only thing I finished for Project Truth was the first part of Phoenix's side of the story, because it was supposed to be like a choose your own character. You choose side Phoenix, side Makoto. I got done with side Phoenix, and that script alone was 10k words, maybe 11k words, I don't remember, by itself. So, writing on the wall, we have 8 more parts, because there's investigation for both characters. Cameron as young Xehanort. Give it up for Cameron as young Xehanort, everybody. Yay. So 10k words in 1/8 of the script. That meant that it was going to be 80k words by the end of it, and I wanted to compensate the voice actors fairly for their work, which meant at a low ball, and this was listed on the now hopefully defunct, because that website is an enigma to me. With the pawn. Love that line.
swarm out from the
what's the website I was using? It was Casting Call. Oh, Unlisted Project Truth on Casting Call. So hopefully nobody's been auditioning for it, and if they have, they kind of know it's dead in the water. But the listing for each character in the casting call was 150. And that was, I think, the low ball. And my job just does not pay enough. My day job does not pay me enough that I can spend that kind of money without a serious investment. Without a serious investment. And ultimately the return on like views or whatever for one episode of this show with 80k words that the script was slowly coming along. The script was slowly coming along, if I'm being real. It was hard to write because I had to keep track of so many moving parts because it was a mystery. And it was just, not only that, it was a mystery, but there were two aspects to the mystery. This is our carbonated gem, by the way. Thank you, Jam. Thank you, Jam. Both arts made by Jam. I paid double money for this. That was another thing, too. I was going to have to pay for sprites for every character as well. And that was going to cost me a pretty penny, for sure. I was having to redesign every character. You saw some of the redesigns in the material that I put out. I think I had redesigned everybody by now. I don't remember all the redesigns, but I think I have them all done. Done. But I would have to get sprites for every single character. Sprites plural. So that's another like cool maybe like $200, $300 that I'd have to spend. And again, I just don't have that kind of money. And it was like, it was the thing where like, sure, I could do a version of it that was not this idea I had in my head, but the idea I had in my head was just so interesting to me. It was so fun. It was the most fun idea I ever had for a Versus Universe episode. And to not do it was, God, it tore me up. The decision to essentially cancel it weighed on me for a while. Because I saw the writing on the wall when I finished that first script, if I'm being real. And I looked and was like, okay, so there's like 8-ish VAs. Okay, one of them can be me, so I don't have to pay anybody for that character just to save some money. And I was going to self-cast myself as them anyway. But it was just... Project Truth was... I don't think doomed from the start, but I think Project Truth was something that I thought I could do when I had more money coming in. And I was working a shitty job that paid well. And I'd rather work the current job I have a million times over than work that shitty job. I don't care about the pay. But at a certain point, you have to realize that ultimately, large projects like that cause you so much strife are just not worth it. Especially if you are working solely, like working alone on a lot of it. Power of a master!
As he says that, Xehanort summons 11 flaming meteors.
It's getting comfy again. It's getting comfy.
It also sends one of the no-names from the clashes of light and darkness into each of them as well, making them explode upon impact. However, before these meteors can even...
So it was that,
he does something.
and I forgot the third thing I mentioned. Oh yeah, editing. That was another thing too, was like, that had to do with the sprites as well. The editing for Project Truth would have been a fucking nightmare. It's just a whole, it'd be a whole swath of work, and I had people like ask me, hey, do you want help with it? And I had to go like, I can't ask for your help because then I have to pay you. and I don't have the money to pay you. I have to keep this money for the voice actors and the artists. And if I can do it myself, I have to do it myself. Just to, like, make sure that the stuff that is necessary that I can't do myself gets done.
Ganondorf then picks Xehanort off
And
the ground and begins to choke him.
it just wasn't
The
sustainable.
massive of the Gerudo King's body
I still have the idea.
violently through his
I still
body as he
have
suffocates
a lot
the
of
Keyblade
assets made
master.
for it. I still have the
Ganondorf
general
can finish
plot.
the deed,
You know,
brilliant white
I don't think I'm
light
ever going to
below,
divulge,
as the
unless it,
fight
like,
below them makes itself apparent
unless
once
I
more.
truly, really decide that I will never, ever make
Xehanort
that
notices that his younger self was
episode,
slain by the Phantom
I will keep the
final
plot
moaning then comes to
that I
fruition
had in mind
as he smirks while still being choked.
closed,
You see,
you know,
Ganondorf reluctantly turns
take it to my
around, a
grave.
beam of light that wasn't there previously.
What is this?
Xehanort ignores Ganondorf, who instinctually lets go of his chokehold to perceive this blinding light.
I have done it. Finally, after all these years. It is mine!
The 12 keys surrounding him dissipate into light as they join to form the chi
I was looking for a place to put my phone down because I was holding it that entire time.
Kingdom
I was targeting my Project Truth as like a little prop, just so that I could hold something to while I was talking. Then I accidentally clicked my mouse.
When the beam reaches past the world they both reside, it forms a new structure foreign to Ganondorf. It forms Kingdom Hearts.
That's it. The moon. If I get my hands on it, I will become nigh unstoppable.
I know that, like, I use the post-analysis segments in Versus Universe to talk about the fight. I will say that, like, I think people might see this part as a little weird because of the speed of it. It's a little weird. But the big idea I had, like, the main idea I had for this fight was like, oh, what if the power of Kingdom Hearts and the Triforce combine into one thing and they both make the same wish at the same time? And that leads into the new segment. So that's why this happens. Ganondorf kind of talks about it a little bit, where it's like, oh, the gods see that you're fucking this shit up. And if you watch the monologues, you know that Xehanort defeated the Link of this world before Ganondorf showed up. So Ganondorf is the god's last resort. So that's, if you don't know that, Kingdom Hearts 2 reference.
Xehanort, either grant me the warrior's death I crave, or prepare to be part of one yourself!
Ganondorf then sends a wave of
I was trying very hard not to peek my mic, but it still happened. I took lots of takes of that, and no matter what take, it was always peaking. So, it was just like the episode. Peak.
Ganondorf then tries his hardest to land a single blow on Xehanort, but unfortunately, the speed and power of the Master, amplified by Kingdom Hearts, is too great, leaving the Demon King exhausted. Xehanort responds in kind.
I do feel bad about Project Truth, though, because it was something I hyped up a lot, because I thought that, like,
this does not deter Ganondorf, however,
it was gonna be a good thing.
trying to kill Xehanort. The Gerudo
I'm
King
talking
has a smirk on his
crazy.
face, and with
It was
each
going to be a
passing second,
thing
the
where
smirk
I was
grows
working on it
wider
in
and
secret
wider until finally
underneath
tackles
every
and attempts to
other
strike Xehanort.
season 2 episode. But unfortunately, working on 2 episodes at the same time sucks, and I don't like doing it. I essentially did that for Joker Giorno and DNSP,
But as he does,
and
he
straight up,
notices something
that was
on the
some of the most
platform
miserable
below him.
versus writing I've ever had to do.
It can't be.
It seems the gods have smiled upon me once more.
This is... I've read about it in the texts of this world. The Triforce? How is it
I guess I can talk a little bit about how I edit these fights. So the way it works is that actually I have
I've ever wanted right in front of me.
so what I do is I have a file from every voice actor.
what I think he will.
Umi.
I have to wish against him.
Charisma.
The two masters of darkness rush
I
towards
have
the
a WAV file from every voice actor,
higher power to speed
and I label that whatever the character is. So I have the narrator, I have character A, character B, and any miscellaneous other characters. In this case, young Xehanort. And then I have to find PNGs for the characters to use. So I'll do that, find the PNGs, and what I'll do first is I will fully edit the audio for the fight. So the narration, so essentially like everything from start to finish, like cohesive, like narrator, character A, character B, narrator, whoever speaks, you know, following the script. That's the first step. And then what I do is I take the character one by one. I take them one by one, and I edit. I render out the full thing of that as a WAV file, so that I can put it into the thing with DaVinci's Fusion tab, so that I can make the bobbleheads. So I have to fully edit the audio, solo the character audio, and then render that out as a waveform in order to get the bobbleheads. And then for the bobbleheads, I insert the PNG into the Fusion composition, and then I add that effect that I'm blanking on the name of, set it to the waveform, and that's how that works. And then I add backgrounds and put the logo up there, put the divider.
I have nothing. Hyrule is gone.
If they have transformations, I have multiple fusion compositions.
Xehanort cannot help himself from finding the situation
And
amusing, so retorts with a
once
bit of
that's all done, I put the music underneath. Music is actually the last step.
I am sure that in due time you will find a way out of here. How could you possibly?
Sometimes I go back to this episode. I just watch this part because I'm really happy with my performance. And God, I don't know if this is true. I'm thinking about it, and this might be true.
Ganondorf begins to slowly cackle once again.
This might have been my first take.
Seemingly madly.
Maybe.
I do not care about fate or destiny. I care about one thing and one
No, this
thing
wasn't my first take.
alone. My rule. And you took that away from me. So I will take everything away from you.
Ganondorf then removes the secret stone from his hand and holds it up mightily in his palm.
What are you?
Ganondorf ignores Xehanort's inquisitiveness and proceeds to scream out.
Take it all. My mind, my body. Everything! I will sacrifice it all to destroy you. The man who took away my purpose. You will perish. Xehanort!
Ganondorf then forces the secret stone in his palm down
Peaked
his
the audio, but
swallowing it
worth
all.
it.
His whole
I should also
body
mention here,
begins
I have not
transform,
talked about the score for this at all.
in a draconic form,
I
suddenly
think
emerging from
this
swirl of
holds the
blue
record for longest versus score. I believe that's true.
in a burst
I don't really
of
check that
red
often.
energy, the demon king who once stood tall, who once had thoughts and a mind
More
of
gem
stone,
art.
vanishes, and in his place floats
This
the demon dragon.
this art that's coming up is so beautiful. I love this art so much.
The only thing
I got the art back from her after giving her like the rough sketch, and I straight up told her I want to frame this on my wall. Just the way the background works with like the painted features of the dragon and just the framing of it all, and the Kingdom Hearts Blood Moon. It's just fucking sick, man.
Disparate people from all across this strange land notice the dragon's presence. One on an island, one on a plane, one in a tournament.
I was talking about the music.
several from the
So,
comfort of indoors.
my idea for the
However,
song,
the
for
man
the score for
whose
this,
reaction matters
episode was actually like working backwards, because I got the idea pretty early on that like, what if I do a reverse of what typically would be the escalation, where it's like, oh, we start orchestral, then we get into like the rock territory. I was like, no, what if we do rock first, and then just the rest of it is orchestra? And I kind of fell in love with that idea. So there's actually 2 files for this. Oh, here it is. Love this fucking art so much.
This weird dimension they both find themselves in. And anybody who is not looking at the dragon was certainly looking now that a gigantic heart-shaped moon appeared out of nowhere in the sky. Kingdom Hearts, however, actually gets painted by Ganondorf's gloom nearly instantaneously, turning the bottom of the heart into a sick.
Yeah, and there, if I'm being real, this entire score, this 18-minute stupid thing I made, that took me like a month to make. Longest time I've ever had to make a score. Like a full month of revisions and changes. But final version is what you hear. It was, there's just a lot of little bits in there. Movement 1 has a lot of callbacks to Lords of the Sand. Oh, lots of them. It has some callbacks to Insidiosa Tenebrae, which is my Xehanort Palpatine score I made in 2020. And Movements 2 and 3 have a lot of references to both Zelda and Kingdom Hearts music. In particular, Movement 3 starts with the Demon Dragon opening, which is actually the Freefall theme, Enters the Kingdom. I found that interesting. And of course, it ends with this big, bombastic, dearly beloved Zelda theme mashup that is inspired by the beginning of the Sora Link track I made in 2022, but with orchestral flair. And, oh god, I talked a lot about Project Truth. I haven't talked enough about the actual episode. There's a lot to talk about with this episode. Thing with Season 3, and this is an idea I got from Steven Universe, which is funny because I'm watching it with somebody right now. Unrelated to anything, I wanted to watch the show. The gay space rocks give me dopamine. Garnet's my favorite. So a thing with the season is I want to have every single character be identified with a specific instrument. And for Ganondorf, it is the pipe organ, the church organ. And for Xehanort, it is the marimba. I hit my mic again, I'm sorry. Xehanort, it is the marimba. Which, after the piano interlude, you can hear the marimba play the Destiny, you can hear the marimba play Dearly Beloved, and you can hear the organ play the Zelda theme.
Kingdom Hearts as well dissipates, no longer being able to be summoned by the Chi-Blade. Xehanort, powerless, falls to the Destiny Islands and lands.
And you kind of heard it a little bit there as well. But in the preview, you can kind of hear it as well. Cell's main instrument is a synthesizer, a saw synthesizer, and Merowim's main instrument is a violin.
However, in the sky, something else is happening. As the demon dragon no longer remains in this world, the demon king is no more as well. However, this would serve him well. All he would need to do is enact the cycle of reincarnation, as he did before this fight proper started, and bide his time. However, as his soul attempts to leave this dimension, it finds no purchase.
I guess I can confirm this now. Do you want the Versus Universe lore dump in the commentary? The character that Ganondorf meets in his ending is Merowim. Isn't that funny? Isn't that funky?
He was now stuck in this prison of a world.
Isn't that crazy?
Without anywhere else to go, he floats back down toward the ground, unsure of what to do.
I am powerless. I am nothing.
He then sees somebody else on the distant horizon, a person who might be susceptible to his magic. All he would need to do would be to grant a deal to give them power, just as he did
I think
with
that's
Xehanort.
about
However, the closer he got
everything
to
with the
Xehanort,
episode.
the more Ganondorf
I can't
thought
think
he
about
might
anything
be
else that I
safe
would
and
like
rousing.
to
The man seemed
mention.
staunchly focused on some sort of task, sitting down with one leg tucked under the other and one hand resting on his
The
upright
endings
leg. He
being
also appeared to be the
kind
same
of
as Ganondorf,
posthumous
if not a bit more
was
secret.
an idea I had pretty early on.
Regardless, the Demon King knew that this man would
I
not
came up
let
with the
him
idea
go
of like a mutually
so,
assured destruction
Ganondorf
ending,
silently sat
which is
beside
what that
him and
is.
waited.
You know, I talk about it a little bit in the post analysis, but I just want to be very clear that, like, despite the fact that Xehanort survives a little bit longer than Ganondorf, it doesn't mean that Xehanort was meant to win. It just means that he was a little late.
Ganondorf then cackled at
And,
no one in particular.
you know,
Not
if
even the
you listen to
main
the
fighter.
narration, the
If
narrator
anything,
says
bellows and
that
guffaws. That fact did
the
not
the
deter
chi
Demon
blade,
King. In fact,
the
it only
the
showed
Kai
his
blade,
resolve. He would get his revenge on Xehanort and this world,
mentions
even
that
if it
that
cost
was
him
destroyed as well. So Xehanort is powerless.
Xehanort laid there on the Destiny Island. He briefly regained his composure and
Even
sat
if he
down.
didn't die,
Though
he
he
is
barely do so
like
with
he
how
didn't
tired
die
his
here.
body
He does at
become.
the end.
He gazed out at the sea, now noticing
That's
some
the name of
sort
a novel.
floating island
Like
off
Fred
in the
dies at the end.
distance. He thought to
I
himself,
forget what the actual character's name is.
Was not
Um,
before.
But
Only the Destiny Islands.
you know, despite the fact that Xehanort technically survives the fight into this ending and gets killed by a random character, who
Xehanort then
will
tried
be
to
a major
summon the
character
no-name
in
keeper,
their own
but
episode.
failed to do so.
But I won't tell
Similarly
who
to
it
how
is
he
yet.
summoned Dark Corridor earlier.
I won't tell who it is yet.
Strong as they are.
I can't tell you the episode they're gonna appear in though.
Xehanort then walks towards the
All
wall,
right.
again,
Can
gazing
you all
at the
keep a
sky
secret?
beyond.
This world.
They're going to be a main character in episode 4.
As he says that, he
Scandalous.
hears some sort of footsteps behind him on the sand of the beach.
Who goes there?
Xehanort turns around to see a man dressed in gold, the outfit alien to anything he had ever seen.
Yeah, I try to make sure that like
Of this world.
this really feels like
There's some amalgamation.
oh, just because like it ultimately if Ganondorf didn't swallow the stone, he would be in the same position as Xehanort. It's just that the way the Secret Stone works, it only makes sense that he has to literally die.
Funny thing. To end my journey where it began. I wish that I could still fight on. I wish to rule. That is not my place in this world. I see.
This is actually one of my favorite monologues to write.
I must leave it.
Xehanort then gets stabbed with the man in gold straight through the heart, leaving him bloodied on the ground, about to die.
I must leave it to you.
Xehanort then collapses on the ground, his body dissipating into light while his heart marches skyward to Kingdom Hearts. And so ends the tale of the Demon King and the Master of the Chi Blade, both losing their corporeal forms and existing in a nebulous state. Such is the destiny of malice and darkness, and destiny is never left to chance.
Had to end it with that one. Honestly.
Oh boy, what a long fucking episode. Hope
I-
you're enjoying yourself here because this was a lot of
I
fun.
feel very good about that
Let's
fight.
rip off the band.
I feel
Shall we?
super good about that fight.
For those people in the separate endings, I can hear you
Like,
crying through whatever you're watching this.
There's some fights where I feel like, there's not enough action, there's not enough banter.
They're gonna be
There's
important
there's too much action, there's too much banter.
Both Ganondorf and
There's not
Xehanort
enough
technically
like setting changing.
they're just ghosts
I
that
feel like this
maybe
is a
go back up.
if I'm being real,
Who knows? Anyway,
I feel like I'm gonna toot my own horn saying this.
getting a little
This really feels like
dragon thing.
the perfect fight. Like,
When
and I
Xehanort
don't mean
was
that
the
like
dragon, he did not win
I sound so
anything.
conceited.
Part of what
I
wanted
just
this
mean
season
like
is
I
have
feel
fun
like
with
I
winners,
found
winners, and losers.
the
And at the end,
perfect
just
way
little lore tidbits about
to
what happens to the characters
make
close
a versus fight that
The
works for
Keyblade
me.
itself was destroyed alongside the
There's
demon.
enough characterization, there's
In
enough
my mind,
ability
that makes it
usage,
for both Ganondorf and
there's
Xehanort.
enough banter, there's enough
I'm lost
character
in the facts
moments
behind it, but something you
where
may have
it
picked up
all
upon
feels
talking is that I'm going to be telling a
cohesive,
continuous narrative
and there's
through
also
every single fight
intrigue.
this season,
There's
with
straight up
little
like,
sprinkles of hints of future stuff planted
you know,
throughout.
there's lore
The main focus
tidbits,
is
and it
the
doesn't take
characters
away from
themselves
anything.
and having an engaging
And
fight.
I'm
The
glad
fights
that
will
I
lead to a
managed
story I
to
have planned.
create
Speaking of,
this.
I have a little
I'm
secret.
glad
I
that this
hope you
episode
enjoy this
exists.
teaser for the future of Versus Universe.
I'm glad that I got
Thanks for
to
watching,
act the
and
shit out of Ganondorf. I didn't talk about it too much, but that was just a fun time, and I got to scream a lot, and I liked it.
a shadowy figure
and this is actually the first time I'm narrating anything in Versus Universe Season 3. Also, all these scribbles, just by me.
This new land. I wish to make this land greater, to achieve something far more than what this.
I'm not going to reveal who's voicing that shadowy figure quite yet.
A second figure appears, their face all
But they are going to be prominent throughout the entire season, I will say.
a fist then appears near the second figure's face, indicating a clear threat.
And I will say that the colors are important because all of the characters are going to be color coordinated as well. And if you notice, when the Meruem monologue drops, you're going to be seeing that the Meruem color is the same as the color that he is on the screen here. Same with Cell. And same with this guy here, whoever the fuck that is. I don't know who they are. Actually, I don't plan ahead. That's not true. I plan too far ahead.
It was his destiny to face that bald-headed man and die in the process. I simply wish for you to find your fate as well.
You've lost me, I'm afraid. Even if fate were real, whoever would I have to fight?
The first figure then shows the second a photograph of a palace. The palace of East Gorteau. And inside this palace is Meruem, the Chimera and King.
There is someone there. Someone like you in ways you've never seen before. Someone from a different world. Someone.
That I'll have to fight?
Yes. And then, both your fates will be sealed.
This is one of the first ideas I had for the season 2.
My fate is to carry out a fight.
TOO.
The second
Was
to be
an ending, like an anime.
How perfect.
I don't know, it felt right. It felt right. This is originally supposed to have lyrics, too. I decided against it, just because it felt... it felt wrong. I couldn't really find lyrics that fit with the tone I wanted. And ultimately, I enjoy how it turned out now. But I should talk about this. This is the map of Season 3. It has every location that's going to be featured in the entire season. I actually mentioned Voices of is going to be in order from, like, characters, like Character A, Character B, Miscellaneous Narrator. So, just because I got top billing there, that was just because Ganondorf is first in the title. I promise I'm not that conceited. Like, next episode, Meruem is going to be voiced by Cameron, and Cell is going to be voiced by Rox, so it's going to be Cameron, Rox, and Skye. Because I'm going to let you in a little secret. I am also going to be playing the Cell Juniors. Because they're showing up, baby. I don't care. You can call it kitschy. You can call them stupid. They're hilarious to me. Yeah, Cell Junior! Anyway, that's it. Bye. Watch my RMSO when it comes out.